Welcome back. This morning we're speaking with Ohio Congressman Brad Wenstrup. We just finished a conversation about gun control. I'd like to move to spending and the economy. There are rumblings and concerns that the economy is going to take a downshift. And what can you tell your constituency to ease their concerns about that, if they are concerned?
Yeah, well, we'll see if it happens, one, and two, to what extent does it happen?
Yeah.
You know, last year around February, the number of hirings dropped that month, but they were still positive, and the next month it bounced back up. So these things tend to ebb and flow. Sometimes we have to take a deep breath because we're trying to expand rapidly. And look at the situation that we're in right now. We have more jobs than we have employees. And so it's hard for the economy to continue to grow at a robust pace when you have that type of a situation. But you know, in that regard, I think we are fortunate right now to be in a position where the economy is good, unemployment is low for all sectors of the American population. Those are positives that we can feed upon. There's a lot of good things that we can do as a result of that, because ultimately the cure for a lot of people's ills would be employment and a robust economy. You wanted to talk about spending. We do have a spending problem, and I have been preaching this forever. And until Congress and our federal government has the courage to address mandatory spending, which goes unchecked, we're going to continue down this path.
You're on Ways and Means. So you are a check and balance
Absolutely.
of spending. Where do our problems rest?
In mandatory spending.
Okay.
So we have done a lot to decrease discretionary spending, although we've increased it for the military recently, or tried to decrease, well, we have decreased our discretionary spending. We've increased it for the military. On the Senate side with Chuck Schumer, he said, I'm not going to increase it for the military unless we increase it for everything else. That's a problem. But the discretionary spending is not where you're going to fix this problem.
So mandatory spending, for somebody sitting at home thinking, well, what is mandatory spending?
Okay, those are all the things that go out the door without us even talking about them. Okay, so we have programs like Social Security and Medicare,
Sure.
and a lot of our programs that help the American people, no doubt about it, but we also have the interest on our debt. And that's mandatory spending. So 50 years ago, mandatory spending was only about 35% of the budget. Now it's about 70. And they predicted about 2030, 2031, it would be 100% of our spending if we don't do something about that.
Okay, so you say, if we don't do something about that, what do you do about mandatory spending?
First of all,
and how do you get it in line?
Well, like any other business or family does, it's like, okay, look at how we're spending our money. Are we doing it wisely? Can we do it more efficiently? But that's the problem with mandatory spending right now, is no one wants to look at it. Why? Because it's politically very, very challenging. I'm more than happy to do it. I think that we need to do it. But we have made, when we do make cuts, it's on the discretionary side.
Sure.
And right now, even if revenues go up, we're still spending too much. And that's where the problem lies. That's the bottom line.
There are people who do not receive a pension and they're not saving in a 401k, and they think, I will have Social Security. Can you promise folks that they'll have Social Security?
Well, I can't promise what's going to happen in the future, but no one wants to get rid of Social Security. But
is that something that would be cut?
I don't think it would be cut. What it would be is refined. Are we doing it efficiently, and how are we generating revenue for it? You know, if you want to get into the weeds on that, people are only having 1.8 children. Okay, Social Security was set up on people having more children that get into the workforce and then pay forward. Or,
well, you're already seeing it with, you know, Gen X paying for the baby boomers.
That's exactly right. So this is what we have to take a look at. And just like an insurance company does, you have to make actuarial changes of what the future looks like. And if we don't pay attention to that, it's not going to be there. But on that other front, I think that in America in the last 50 or 60 years or so, or people growing up with Social Security, we're under the impression that what they're going to get from Social Security is going to be enough. And very often it isn't. And you hear that today. So what we are doing on Ways and Means is doing things to encourage our youth as soon as they can to start investing in their retirement, especially if their employer is matching what they put away. So we're putting that in front of them. We'd rather they have to opt out of it than have to opt in, because we want them to be a When I started in my practice, very much in debt after
and we should say, you're a doctor, you're a physician.
So, you know, I had a lot of debt, and I was told, pay off your debt, especially your high interest loans, hold on to your low interest loans, pay it off, and then invest in your retirement and don't count on Social Security being there. Not that they thought it was going to be gone, but don't count on just that. That's what we're trying to tell the next generation is be more prepared, but that doesn't mean we want to get rid of Social Security, but we want it to be viable and not bankrupt, which is where we're headed.
When you talk about refinement of Social Security, are you talking about perhaps pushing the age further back?
Well, that's something that an insurance company would do, right? They would start to take a look at this. Well, you know, you look at life insurance. They adjust their how they do things because people were living longer, and so you had to make adjustments for that. And so those are the types of actuarial things that you want to take a look at to make it viable so that it is there for the next generation. I want the next generation to say, thank you for saving Social Security for us, that it's there, because we're not on that path right now.
Okay, so we are not on that path. Do you have a timeline for targeting that specifically? I know it's been ongoing, but...
Well, my timeline was 4 years ago or so, you know, so what my timeline is doesn't always match up with how the body politic works in Washington, D.C., which is a problem.
But shouldn't that be top of mind?
It should be, but that's where both sides have to come together.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody has seen it. If you start talking about doing something to even save these programs so that they're viable, the other side wants to say, you want to kill your grandma, you want to take away all these things, you don't care about people. That's what happens politically, and that's why we have trouble getting it done, because people don't want to face the hard politics of doing something, but it really isn't to harm the future of America, it's to help the future of America.
So the meeting of the minds in the middle aisle between the two sides.
Yeah.
That's what has to happen.
And there's plenty of them there. There are so many things in Congress that we get together on both sides of the aisle, but you don't hear about them.
All right. We will be right back. We'll wrap up our conversation with Congressman Brad Wenstrup in just a moment, and we'll be chatting about election 2020.